My soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist. Growing up in the Deep South, I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump. He shows how much he cares about social justice in the black community through his actions. And his action speaks louder than stickers or slogans on a jersey. Some people don't like his style, the way he knocks down obstacles that get in the way of his goals. People on the opposing team didn't like when I ran over them either. But that's how you get the job done.
And he got the job done often. Let's bring him in right now. Herschel Walker, former NFL player, 1982 Heisman Trophy winner, and star of a very powerful segment at the RNC on Monday. Herschel Walker, thank you very much for joining us. It's our pleasure. Big fan. I got to get your take.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I got to get your take because the NFL's coming back, and we're hearing new reports of extensive social justice content for week one. Here's a part of what ESPN is saying. They're saying about what the NFL may do. Among options discussed by the league and players union, according to a source involved, players reading personalized poems and delivering first-person vignettes based on experience with social justice. These stories could be incorporated into game day broadcasts. Kneeling, an additional national anthem called the Black National Anthem, possibly. What are we going to see, and what should the NFL do, Herschel?
Well, I think, first of all, what the NFL should do is do both sides. I hope this is not slanted only to support the Democratic side, because if you want social justice, is anything, is to bring both parties together. You know, one thing that I have noticed, and I continue to crowd, and I'm going to shout it from the rooftop, if you want to make changes, you got to have the Democratic and the Republican people to come together. And I go back to Senator Scott. You know, the Democratic didn't even want to meet. And then you go back to right now, and the only time the Democratic has decided to denounce the violence in the streets when they found out that they were starting to lose in the polls. And now, you know, the NFL, I hope, and I pray that you bring both sides together. This president, this administration, he has reached out to say, hey, come meet, let's talk. And no one has decided to do it. So I'm praying that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, Herschel, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about the politics of this all, because it has gotten very political. Joe Biden has weighed in. There is a new Biden ad, actually, that's blaming President Trump for all of these canceled sports seasons. Let's take a look at it, and then we'll get your reaction.
And now, to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem.
So what do you think? Is the president to blame? And should politicians be engaging in a blame game at all when it comes to this issue?
Well, they shouldn't be in a blame game at all, because if you start pointing fingers, you should point it right back at yourself. Because, you know, one of the first things they said is they got systematic racism. Well, that means that it's a norm, meaning Vice President Biden, you've been in office for a long time, and what have you done? And if you want to start blaming, let's look at people's records. And I say the president's record, you know, what he's done for African American is far better than Biden, who's been in office for 47 years. So let's not blame. I think we got to come together. I've been talking about it. Let's come together. And now you want to blame, and I think it's wrong. And you know, people has to come together and communicate, which they have not wanted to do that at all, and that's what's sad.
Herschel, we talked about what the NFL may do in week one. I'm sure you saw this past week as the NBA and the NBA Players Association declined to play, sat out for a game or 2 days this past week. It dominoed into the NHL and Major League Baseball as well, Major League Soccer as well. Herschel, I'm fascinated by this. You're an outlier. You're African American. You seem to be conservative or Republican, certainly a Donald Trump supporter. You're an athlete. You were a high-level athlete. Those are all things that fall outside the norm when it comes to voting patterns or support traditionally for political parties. It seems most athletes lean left, or at least so publicly. It seems most athletes are diagnosing and looking for solutions to social justice issues only in one way. Why? Why do athletes all see it one way and you see it another?
Well, you know, one thing about it is I'm for truth. I'm for truth, and what I mean by that is I didn't speak out for the president because someone asked me to. I spoke out because I know him. I spoke out because I wanted people to know the truth. And I've seen a lot of stations, and I give you guys credit, I've seen a lot of stations that give opinions when they're supposed to be giving the news. Well, I grew up in the South. I grew up in a small town that people may watch one station, and they've seen a lot of things that's been slanted. And right now, I want if the NFL, the NBA, or any professional team is going to get involved, when I've been saying keep politics out of sport, if you're going to get involved, give this truth. This administration here has not had a fair chance. Every time anything happens, it's this administration's fault. Well, they're reaching out saying, guys, come, let us help to change. That's how it's going to change. It's not going to change by stomping your feet, by protesting, by kneeling and all that. Way it's going to change is getting into Washington, getting the Democratic people to go across the line and meet with the Republican. The Republican hands are open, not having a closed fist. Their hands are open, saying, let's get this done, and they don't seem to want to do it. And I want people to know that. I want people to know the truth before they go to the polls to vote, because that's important. It seems like the Democratic side want them to go to the poll upset, want them to go to the polls thinking that this administration is the one that causing this. Because, all I ever hear from the Democratic side is, let's go to the science, this science. Well, there's more than one thing with this science. There's other scientists that's saying something different. They talk about college football playing again, and they can play again from other scientists.
Herschel, you mentioned, the protests and how it's okay if we're going to hear from both sides. But from viewers who watch and with the NFL coming, I'm reminded of, I don't know if it was last season or 2 seasons ago, when those 5 officers were shot in Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys wanted to put a decal on their helmet honoring those police officers. And the NFL would not allow it. Now we've got Drew Brees with Jacob Blake on his helmet. They're talking about putting the names of people on their helmets. It's going to be one-sided, Herschel. And are people going to turn off the TV if it's kneeling and alternate anthems and names and Black Lives Matter slogans? How can it not look like it's going to be one-sided?
Well, I know it's going to be one-sided. One of the things that was sad to me is I heard the coach from the Seattle Seahawks, Coach Carroll, he said, white people just don't understand. And I said, that is so insulting, Coach, because I know you, Coach. He was with me when I was in Minnesota. White people do understand. Italian people understand. Native American people understand. America understand that there is a problem. We understand that there is a problem as African American as well, but we have to come together to solve that problem as Americans, not just looking at what happening to Black America, because things are happening to white Americans as well. People don't want to talk about the white people that have been killed by police. Let's only talk about the Black. They don't want to talk about the Latino that's been killed by the police. Let's only talk about the Black. Well, what I'm talking about is coming together to stop violence altogether as Americans, because that's what we are. Not a Black national anthem, not a white national anthem, not an Italian national anthem, but an American anthem. And that's the way it is. That's what this country is. This country is the United States of America, and under God we trust. And you got to put God back in it.
Well said, Herschel Walker. Really appreciate having you on this morning. Always fun to talk to you. Thank you, Herschel.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you.
All right.